Yes, so I'm very fortunate to have worked with two of these recipients today. They're equally impressive, but they could not be more different. As you will hear, so Matey was in my AP Music Theory class last year, so it's been a while since I've seen him on a daily basis. And I'm going to rattle off some quotes from his other teachers as well. There was never a dull moment with Matey at my class. Matey is a very talented musician, and on top of all his academic and performing accomplishments, he manages to find time to compose music for his own satisfaction. Earlier this year, he completed a composition and entered the Young Masters Composition Contest. A couple months ago, he emailed me, and he wrote a string quartet, and he wanted me to hear it, and we talked about it, and I may have had a few things to say here and there, but it just far surpasses anything I would have dreamed of writing when I was in high school. It's unbelievable. I also remember about this time last year, this is the time that in AP classes we're kind of test prep mode. As of today, I could tell you we have 24 class days to go before we take our AP test. But Matey had taken it upon himself to research some of the AP questions beyond what we could cover in our classes. His questions were super insightful, but very complex, actually. And as much as I wanted to engage him in a discussion about the finer points of music, I mean, there were 20 other students in my class. So while I appreciated his personal initiative and thirst for knowledge, I find myself telling him, and we all know, most of us that would know AP scores are rated 1 to 5. And I had to tell him, College Board never gave a 6. And that may give you an insight into what kind of a person Matey is. I hope I didn't do a disservice to you in saying that. I don't ever want for you to stop your thirst for knowledge and researching for answers. That's not what I meant by that. It may have been convenient at the time. Here are what some of his teachers say. Miss Elliott, you might remember Miss Elliott. Christina was one of the top 3 essay writers in her class this year, right? Miss Elliott says about Matey, he's hilarious, thought-provoking, and challenging in a good way. He's one of the 3 best writers I'm teaching this year. So you guys need to go find out who the other one is tomorrow. I even give his essay to other teachers to read and use as examples for their students. Another teacher says, Matey is the most innately creative, witty student with whom I've worked. Another says, Matey is talented, brilliant, with a unique sense of humor. And I think Mr. Milburn, our AP chemistry teacher, said it best, and keep in mind, we're about to give him this podium, this microphone, right? Mr. Milburn says, one can certainly not call Matey introverted, to put it mildly. In fact, his loquacity is renowned. I do worry, though, that he will wear his vocal cords out before he graduates. The only time you will find him not talking is when he is singing. So with that, let me introduce to you Matey Yanakiev.
Now I have to live up to all of that. Well, I'd love to begin by thanking everyone who has made it possible for me to even be here tonight, and that means first and foremost, the final step of this process was seeing the committee for such a warm and inviting interview. It's perhaps the best interview I had over this past year, and I did go to quite a few for schools, but this was an incredibly open and inviting experience. So I want to thank them for the recognition they've paid to me in offering me the scholarship, and for the numerous opportunities that this has opened to me now that I look toward my future. Additionally, of course, I have to thank the O'Donnell family for making this night possible for I don't know how many years now, probably longer than I've been alive. And at the same time, for all the activities that go perhaps unmentioned tonight at schools every year. Last year, one of the high points of the experience for all music theory students was the Jeffrey Siegel concert at the Eisenman that they so kindly sponsored. And I think it opened doors to the arts for students who may otherwise never had an experience like that. Then, of course, I must extend a thank you to Mr. Sato, who I think he's the type of teacher that you can't fully appreciate in one year, but you definitely get to look back on his class later on in life and say, wow, music theory was one of the best decisions I made in high school. I've really never seen music made more approachable to students from all kinds of backgrounds. You know, we're talking from experienced musicians who, they've been playing since right about they were born, and then to people who never even read music before in their lives, much less analyzed it in the way that you'd have to on the AP test. And he made all of us successful. And then finally, I have to thank my parents, without whom I'd probably be 6,000 miles away in some remote corner of Eastern Europe today. When we moved to the United States 8 years ago, we had no idea what this would entail. But looking back, you know, people don't move at the age of around 40 because of youthful idealism anymore. They don't abandon a structured, secure life and take upon themselves so much risk because they're looking forward to something for themselves so much. I mean, really, it's their selflessness and the opportunities that they were looking forward to giving me in coming here to the United States. And I'm eternally grateful for that. Or, I mean, I don't know if I can really express it in words. So with God's generous blessing, here I am today, over 2 minutes into my speech and still having said none of the requested items on the email that I received. So let me begin to attempt to remedy this a little bit by telling you about myself. I've always considered myself a generalist in my interests and my talents. I've loved history as much as science and literature as much as math. But music has always stood out to me. Ever since I was a little boy, perhaps 2 or 3, and I was in my parents' neighbor's apartment, and they had this old worn-out piano, and I was just trying to reach up to the keys of the piano. And I think that's where my interest in music started, my fascination with the instrument. I learned how to play piano over the next few years, and in 6th grade, when I moved to Frankfurt Middle School, I joined the school choir when I realized I had the gift to sing. And I think my parents have regretted that quite sometimes. But it's been an incredible experience, and it opened the doors for operatic music for me. And since then, it's perhaps become my greatest passion. But in that sense, I've also gotten into the idea of composing music and conducting music. So I guess I've become a generalist in the field of music too. Which may beg the question now, why would I not major in music if I have so many musical interests? And my answer to that is I'd really love to. I'd love to particularly double major and to do something academic and scientific with something more musical. So I'm looking into that as much as possible. However, my firm decision right now is that I'll be going to most likely Rice University, and I'll be looking into economics and other mathematical fields of studies as they relate to political science. And that will be my primary degree path. So even if a double major does not work out, I know for certain that I will be pursuing music courses because they've been the most enriching thing in my life. And quite honestly, I still dream about a music career deep inside. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I've also been asked to mention a couple of my activities in my collection of AP classes throughout the years. So I'd love to begin by mentioning that I did get to participate in a documentary about the Dallas Opera that my friends and I made for the American Studies class we were in last year. And we got to interview Mr. Winspier's son, Don Winspier, among many other things. But I think really my biggest accomplishment as far as the community is concerned is my time volunteering with This Side Up family. Because in my life, my family's been my strongest source of support. And when I get to help other people's families, even in the slightest ways, to find that level of, coherence and reliance on each other, that's perhaps the most meaningful thing any of us can do for our communities. And now, at the hopefully 4-minute speech close that I'm supposed to give, I will mention all the AP courses as requested that I've taken, so bear with me. I'm sorry this gets a little bit boring. I promise the classes were not. They kept me awake quite a bit. So human geography was my first experience with AP in 9th grade. Then I went on to world history, European history, U.S. history, and then, of course, to English, both the language course and the literature course. Spanish, same thing, the language course and the literature course. And music theory, naturally. Calculus, U.S. government, macroeconomics, and chemistry now. And I've been honored to know Mr. Milburn from chemistry, and I'm surprised he had nice things to say about me after all. So on that note, I would really love to thank everyone once again for this tremendous opportunity, for your time, and for just this humbling experience overall. Thank you very much.